All right, we are live. A few things to cover here today before we jump in the chat. But first things first, if you get bored here, or if you just want to check out some live sim racing or whatever, Groovy Hollow is going on right now. It is for a good cause for the Foundation, part of the Children's Miracle Network. So go over there and check them out. And if you feel it in your heart to donate, that of course would be much appreciated. Great cause, great thing that Eric does every single year. Unfortunately, it happens at the same time that I live stream here. So as soon as I'm done here, if I have time, I'm going to go jump over there and catch it, at least catch the finish. And I'm definitely going to watch the replay. Going with my pick for that one is going to be David Schildhouse. Going with him. Hopefully he wins number three. I was fortunate enough to be partnered with him last year, so good on him. Hopefully he can get number three. So go over there and check that out if you want to. But let's jump into what we got to talk about today. Connor Jones, Matt Mills situation. First off, the Matt Mills is going to race at Martinsville. So he has made a full recovery. And thank goodness the car caught on fire and he got smoke inhalation, had to stay overnight in the hospital for a couple days. But luckily, he is okay now. So Matt Mills, okay. And he is going to race. That is the main thing. That is the big thing. These cars are safe, but it's never good to wreck or anything like that. So, on that note, we have to go over to Connor Jones and discuss the Connor Jones side of the story because now that we know that Matt Mills is okay, we need to discuss the Connor Jones side of it. Connor Jones is a young kid, uh, probably 18 or 19. I can't remember off the top of my head, but a young kid, and I don't think he fully understands the gravity of racing these cars and what intentionally wrecking somebody can be. I think he found out the hard way the other week when he wrecked Matt Mills. So hopefully this is the wake up call he needs because I think before this, I don't think it really registered to him that these cars that he's racing are dangerous. It's not just a game. And I think he's not the only one. He's going to be the biggest one because he is the repeat offender. And I'm going to get to the repeat offender apart uh, here in a minute. But we've seen him do this several times. He is unable to keep his cool at times when he gets upset in the race car. And you've seen him in the past intentionally wreck other cars. So it's not a good look for him. Hopefully, this time it crystallizes in his head that that should not ever be a thing you do, especially at a track with that type of pace. You might be able to get away with it at a short track, but I still wouldn't recommend doing it there. So hopefully that's the wake up call he gets. But like I said, he's a repeat offender, so he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt. He is young, but a lot of fans are never going to think about him being young. They're just going to be like, how come this dude keeps wrecking people? He's a weapon out there. And that's a fair statement. Like you can only use the young excuse for so long. If you do it a few times, eventually you got to learn. And hopefully he learned this time. But he is not the only party in this because, as I said, he has a history of it. And the other side of this is Connor Jones needs to tighten up and get his stuff together and get right. But NASCAR has let it go on for quite some time. And we've seen a history of NASCAR being inconsistent with calls, but especially with these type of calls, you see people get wrecked all the time and NASCAR doesn't do anything about it. Even though you know for sure it's intentional, you hardly ever see NASCAR sit anybody down for a race. And on a first offense, maybe I can understand that. Just put them on probation. But when you have a guy like this that has repeat offenses, and I'm just using him as an example, because there have been many other examples in the past of guys doing this, and NASCAR doesn't do anything about it. So as much as you want to blame Connor Jones, I think we also need to blame NASCAR for not policing the sport. And I think part of the reason NASCAR doesn't police the sport for incidents like this is they have skewed a little too far into the side of entertainment. And of course, it is entertainment to NASCAR whenever the drama from an intentional wreck comes. So part of the reason NASCAR doesn't want to discourage this type of behavior is because it's good for business for NASCAR. Because the more drama, the more clicks, the more views, the more times you watch these replays, the more ad revenue comes into NASCAR, the more sponsors come into NASCAR. So as much as you want to blame Connor Jones, he is directly responsible, and hopefully he tightens up in the future. You also need to blame NASCAR for letting these drivers continue to get away with these type of things, like wrecking people intentionally. So it's something that both sides need to come together on. NASCAR, especially in the lower divisions, NASCAR really needs to tighten up on the racecraft and not just let these guys run through each other and junk each other. Because as you saw, in this truck race, it has real world consequences. Some people are never the same after a wreck. Some people that are really great race car drivers are never the same after a wreck. So not only are you even if they survive it, they might not be the same race car driver. Steve Park is the first one that pops to mind in that, and obviously his wasn't intentional, but of a guy who was just never the same after the wreck. And if you intentionally take away somebody's career, it's just something you need to think about. This not a game when you're driving a 3,500 pound race car or a truck in the case of the Connor Jones Matt Mills deal. So hopefully this sheds some light to these younger drivers that hey, you can't just go in here and act like it's iRacing, and when you get pissed off, put somebody into the wall. That's not a good thing in real life. It's not a good thing on iRacing. It's just a bad habit to get into, period. Learn how to control your emotions inside of a race car. That's really all I can say about it. I'm not trying to come down super hard on Connor Jones because he's a young kid, and hopefully he learns from this because I'm sure I'm pretty sure he's hearing it all over social media, and hopefully he gets better from it and doesn't get like super bullied for this. But he does need to learn from this, and he does need to grow. Like I said, everybody deserves a second chance. So hopefully this is the moment that crystallizes that in his mind that we can't just be wrecking people. It's not fun and games when you're racing these type of cars. All right, that was the serious part of it. The next one is the RFK Charter. They're doing a wet weather tire test in Homestead. That's already concluded. Ryan Priest was the driver for RFK. That has led to a lot of speculation that Ryan Priest is going to be the driver for RFK. Now, whether or not that happens, a lot of people linking that together. It does look pretty serious because we've heard for months and months and months now at this point, at least 2 or 3 months, that RFK will run a third car next year. So where there's smoke, there is fire. And Ryan Priest being the driver that does a tire test for him, when you hear all that, doesn't seem coincidental. So if the rumors come true and they are running the third car, and let's just say for the sake of argument, Ryan Priest is going to run it, the next question becomes where does the charter come from? Will there be a charter? Will it be a full time ride? What is the fate of the third car over there that Ryan Priest will be running, according to rumors? And there are a few candidates for that. First off, a lot of people are speculating that he's going to rent one from Rick Ware Racing. I've seen Bob Pockris mention this several times, and I don't think it's a coincidence that Bob Pockris has mentioned this several times. Now, Bob Pockris hasn't directly said it's going to be rented from Rick Ware Racing, but if you sort of want to connect the dots, Bob Pockris is saying without saying they're probably going to rent one from Rick Ware Racing. So I'm going to lean toward that because Bob Pockris is pretty much dead on when it comes to things like this. But there is some other speculation that maybe they got one of the front row charters. Possibly there's going to be a gap year with 2311 and the front row charters that Haas has. Maybe they rent one from Haas for 1 year. That is the most likely situation if they get one from Haas. That's not a long-term future thing. So I don't know if that necessarily floats, but that's in my mind is the only way they would get one from Haas. Because as you saw in the paperwork for the court filings, 2311 already has one, and Trackhouse also already has one from Haas. So that sort of wraps up the other two charters that were out there from Haas. Of course, Front Row Motorsports getting the other one. So they seem to be spoken for. But if there was a gap year, maybe you could rent one for a gap year. Maybe that's what people are alluding to. But that's why I said they somehow got a Haas charter. So however it would work out, they somehow got a Haas charter. That's the poll question, by the way. The other one is maybe they run a part-time deal like what Jimmy Johnson is doing without a charter, or maybe a full-time deal without the charter. They could do that. And then the other one is Serenity Now. Serenity Now, Jerry. Serenity Now. That's the other option in the poll question because this the silly season has just been one of those never ending, and there's more questions than answers when one piece gets revealed. It's been a wild silly season. So that's my thoughts on the RFK charter. I'm thinking that they're probably going to rent one from Rick Ware Racing, but the poll question is up to you guys. I'd love to see what you guys are thinking about it. And the other thing that happened today that I thought was interesting is Irwindale is shutting down. Now, stop me if you've heard this one before, because I feel like for the past 5 or 6 years, we've heard Irwindale is shutting down. But it looks legitimate this time because some of the events that were going to happen at Irwindale have already been transferred over to Kern County Speedway. So it looks like Irwindale is actually going to shut down for real. Not only the circle track, but it also looks like the drag strip over there at Irwindale is going to be shutting down. So another racetrack lost, and it's looking like, if the rumors are true as far as that goes, it looks like it's either going to be another mall or what was the other thing it could be? I don't know, but I just remember them all because I was like, we lost Riverside to a mall, and now we're going to lose Irwindale to a mall. So it's sort of a bummer. But apparently Irwindale is gone. Their last race is going to be, I think, in December, sometime in December. So if you're in that area and you want to see the last race at Irwindale, I think it is sometime in December. So check that one out. And the other big news, Couch Racer started a rumor that a driver had to finish in front of his boss to keep his seat. Everybody on the internet assumed it was Jimmy Johnson and John Hunter Nemechek. John Hunter Nemechek did finish ninth that race ahead of Jimmy Johnson. So Couch Racer started the rumor. They didn't necessarily say Legacy flat out, straight out of their mouth, but they did mention that it had to be a driver outrun his boss, and so everybody jumped to the conclusion that that was the one. They then later came out and debunked their own rumor, saying we bet John Hunter Nemechek is back in the 42 next season. So they started a rumor and immediately debunked it. But that being said, there has been a lot of turnover at Legacy. It wouldn't surprise me if John Hunter Nemechek was on the hot seat and somehow got off of it. Like that, that would not 100% surprise me at all. And it just does throw into the fact that Legacy has been such a disaster this year. Now, next year, maybe with the data points that they gained this year, I don't know what you could learn from what you've done this year though, because you've run so poorly. With the data points they've learned this year, maybe they run better next year. Unlikely, but they ran better last year, unsupported by Chevrolet, than they've run this year, supported with Toyota. So it really calls into question what is going on over there at Legacy Motor Club. Why is it in such disarray? Why have they run so bad? John Hunter Nemechek, when he doesn't wreck, he has got a ton of talent. He does finish well. He has just had a really high incidence rate this year. He's got the highest in the entire series of being in accidents this season. Eric Jones, we know what Eric Jones can do. Eric Jones is a solid race car driver, borderline breakout star, depending on the year. You know, Eric Jones can get the job done. Neither one of those drivers have lived up to their potential. In fact, of the drivers that have competed in all of the races, those two are like at the bottom. At last time I looked at it, those two were at the bottom of the points. So it's just been an unmitigated disaster for Legacy. And then behind the scenes, Legacy is moving people all over the place. People are getting fired. People are getting hired. Like there's just all kinds of stuff going on. It's just not a good situation. So hopefully next season they right the ship and get it going in the right direction. But Legacy itself is just an utter disaster. So I think that's part of the other reason that the internet immediately jumped to John Hunter Nemechek being on the hot seat. But Couch Racer, I did want to point out, has already confirmed that the rumor they started, they already debunked it. So either they were talking about another driver, or they were talking about John Hunter Nemechek, and they found out that his seat is safe. So that I think is everything that I saw sort of happening. As far as this goes, once again, want to mention if you get bored here and want to go check out Groovy Hollow, go check out Groovy Hollow. We're pulling for David Shieldhouse. I'm going to catch the back end of that. But now let me jump into the comments. And officially, the poll question is RFK Charter. Where does it come from? It comes from Rickware Racing. They run unchartered. They got a Haas charter somehow, or Serenity Now, Jerry. Serenity Now.